2. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live again on tonight, and I'm super excited as usual. Listen, this is going to be a great show. I got with me again this week my guy, my Silver Fox Squad brother, Mr. Titus Unlimited, our health guru, and we're going to get into it tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about sugar. A great many of us are addicted to sugar, and we don't even realize it, and we don't understand, most importantly, what sugar is doing to our bodies and to our brains. And I tell you, as I've been doing some research on this, Titus, it's absolutely scary. I mean, 100% scary as to what sugar is and what it does to us and how detrimental it is, even more so, or it's equally as cocaine, as crack, or any of these other things. So on tonight, we get started again with Mr. Titus Unlimited. Tonight's discussion, I didn't know I was addicted to sugar. I'm gonna start just real quick, little small testimony. Man, I love donuts, Titus. I love donuts. I love cake. I love pies. I love all of that. But I do understand I can't eat cake, donuts, pies every single day. I just can't do it for a number of different reasons. One, because we're in the Silver Fox Squad, and you said we can't do that. That's not allowed. Which I would do probably a lot. And two, for health reasons. I don't want to get overly, I don't want my insulin levels spiking to all-time highs, and I can't get them down. I'm not trying to develop diabetes and some other complicated diseases or something of that sort. So for a number of reasons, I can't do it. And I'm sure if most of us who are on with us tonight will be honest, they may actually be addicted to sugar and just don't know it. So we're going to get into this thing, and I'm going to let Titus kick us off. And Titus, go ahead on and kick us off. I got quite a few questions for you on tonight, and I know you got a lot of great information for us, sir. So go ahead on and do your thing, man.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, my man. I appreciate it, and this is a very important subject. As a matter of fact, if I had to pick one subject that was the most important for people to grasp, it would be sugar. All right. And the reason why is let me start first by saying one of the things I like to do with people is I like to educate people on history. Because if you don't understand the history of things, you don't understand how we got here. And if you don't know how we got here, who got us here, and why they got us here, you're looking at something from one angle, right? And it looks totally different from another perspective. And a lot of people think the truth, right? The truth will set you free, and all those things like that. But before the truth can set you free, Mike, you have to first realize what lie is holding you hostage. Right? And so many people can't really grasp the truth because they're too busy holding on to the lie. And the lie is that we were conditioned since we were kids to love sugar. But the question is why? Why? When you start to look into sugar, why is it that everybody's so conditioned to love sugar? Why is it that when you have your kids that you love on their first birthday without their asking, you gave them a birthday cake?
Ooh, you're killing us, Titus.
Why? Who said that that was mandatory? And the thing is that if you didn't give them a birthday cake, they wouldn't know any different. But the people around you would say, oh, he didn't even give his kid a birthday cake. You show up to a kid's birthday party as opposed to birthday cake, you got exotic fruit, right? You're the worst parent. Why is that? All right. And so the three biggest money makers in medicine right now in the United States, right, are cholesterol drugs, right, diabetes, and high blood pressure. And all three of those are directly linked to documented historical lies told to us about sugar. I'll give you one big one. The sugar industry, we know this for a fact, bribed the three top scientists at Harvard in the 60s to write a paper blaming heart disease on butter, eggs, and meat, and not on sugar. The scientist's name is Dr. Frederick Stair. At that point, Frederick Stair was was the number one nutritionist, and he actually had a lot of influence on nutritional policy in the United States. So you fast forward and you look at our food pyramid, which was just changed, right? Which told us that 70% of our 70% of our calories you're supposed to consume every day should have come from wheat, bread, pasta, carbs and stuff like that. All right? Because we also know this now, that the more sugar you consume, right, the more inflammation your body has. The more inflammation your body has, guess what? The more chances that your cholesterol will then oxidize and give you a heart attack, which opens the door for the doctor to come in and say, hey, your cholesterol is a little high, let me give you this statin. The moment you take the statin, then now here comes the muscle weakness, here comes the dementia, here comes the ED, all right? When you consume a lot of sugar, guess what happens? Your insulin levels go up. When your insulin levels go up, guess what happens? Your body traps salt. When your body traps salt, it also retains water. What happens? Your blood pressure go up. As opposed to them telling you sugar is the problem, because sugar started the whole cycle. Oh, don't eat salt. Sugar standing there in plain sight. Don't eat salt. All right. So now you're blaming your high blood pressure on salt, not sugar. And last but not least, diabetes. Everybody, oh, it's the sugar. Cool. But they don't tell you that bread has sugar. They don't tell you that cereal has sugar. What's the number one thing everybody that's trying to lose weight? Oh, I eat oatmeal. Sugar. And so if you go to American Diabetic Association website, one of the first things they recommend for you to eat in the morning is oatmeal, orange juice, toast. And what they say, oatmeal with blueberries and brown sugar. I know for a fact that everybody grew up thinking brown sugar was healthier than white sugar. I think in many places they sell brown sugar more expensive.
Yeah. It is.
It's not. Brown sugar is just sugar with molasses in it. It's actually, if you had to say, it's probably more unhealthy.
Well, you see, I had to take my glasses off of this, because this is what's scary about this, Titus, is that people believe, or they've been mistaught, that certain things are healthy for you, when in fact they are just not healthy at all. In fact, they're killing you. For instance, we just talked about brown sugar, and how brown sugar, that is anything with sugar in it is pretty much not going to be good for you. Although our body does need some sugar, the amounts of sugar and the types of sugar that we're getting. I want us to get into this. It's important to understand, man, that over consumption of sugar is crazy. I was looking at something today, Titus, and it talked about how, and this is especially important, about inflammation. And inflammation is the killer, is really that silent killer behind a whole bunch of other things. And so one of the things the report talked about was prostrate and the link to inflammation. Most men don't know that all prostrate is inflammation. It's inflammation in your prostrate. How does that happen? You have these sugar spikes that elevate it, and it's just too much for your liver. This is something I didn't know, Titus, that it impacts your liver so much that its liver now begins to function at a third of its ability, or even a quarter of its ability, to be able to, do what it does, so that it helps your prostrate, so that all, the elimination of these things throughout your body. I think you talked about this a little bit last week. It cuts down on elimination, but your body can't do it because it's inflamed. Now, most of us walking around right now, Titus, I didn't notice until I got this blood panel done last year that my body was aflame, on fire. And it was mainly because of my sugar intake. I didn't understand that I was consuming too much sugar, because here's what I thought. I'm not eating a lot of donuts anymore. I cut those back. I'm not eating a lot of cake, cut that back. But what about the bread? What about the pasta? What about the rices? What about the condiments? What about the ketchups, the mustards, and all of these fancy little things you put on your salads and all this other kind of stuff? While I wasn't getting sugar through those other things, I was consuming it through these things. And there's so many, many, many more. There's a whole list here. And I want to talk about that list, Titus, of different foods first, starting there. But let me back up. Let me start here. Titus, talk to us about inflammation, and it's important. Inflammation is synonymous, or should be now in our vocabulary, synonymous with sugar, because they are interrelated. Talk to us about how sugar, the spike of sugar, is what it's doing to our bodies in terms of inflammation, and then what that inflammation is doing to our bodies as well. And then I want to talk about where sugar can be found, because most of us don't understand all these different places where sugar can be found, other than cakes, pies, and sugar itself.
So here's the thing, Mike. You are right, and that's why I pointed out the history first. Okay. So whenever you see a problem like that, right? One of the easiest things to try to figure out is, okay, but who's benefiting from, who's responsible for this, number one, and who's benefiting? Because we know that you, me, my mother, my children, your mother, they're not benefiting from this. So who is, right? Now, one thing to note, and you mentioned it last, was sugar is in everything. I remember when I first got on my health journey, and I switched from dairy, and I started consuming almond milk, right? Um, and once again, this health process is a journey, and there's levels to it. So I'm drinking almond milk, and I always used to go to the grocery store and grab the silk almond milk, grabbing. And then one day I happened to look in the case, and I saw one that said sugar free. And I was like, well, what do you mean sugar free? I thought the one I was eating was, why would you put sugar in almond milk? And I went and looked, and the almond milk I had been drinking, which was just plain, right, had 8 grams of sugar per serving. Yeah. So sometimes it's not what the package says, it's what it doesn't say. Sugar free. And then I started looking at other things, and literally they microdose you with sugar all day long.
Yep.
Okay. And so if you're eating conventionally, even if you think you're eating clean, right, you're getting microdoses of sugar. So mind you, now, let's assume I thought I was being healthy, and I put the sugar on the almond milk on my cereal. Well, cereal is going to spike it. The almond milk is going to spike it. Let's assume I did it with my oatmeal. The oatmeal is going to spike it. The almond milk is going to spike it. God forbid I took their advice. I put a little brown sugar on it. Spike, spike, spike. So the entire time, what am I doing? I'm fueling inflammation and mucus production in my body. All right. And once my body now has that elevated insulin, guess what else happens to me? My immune system gets dampened by 5 hours every time that insulin spikes. So that makes me more susceptible to infections, viruses, and all these things. So we go back to COVID, right? You would think, knowing that, because this is a scientific fact, this is not Titus saying this, that would be one of the first things you would announce to the public during COVID. Hey, guys, especially these days where we need to have a stronger immune system, cut back the sugar. Nope. As a matter of fact, Uber Eats was promoted, and most of your fast food, takeout food have additives and preservatives in it that dampen your immune system. Plus, they're also loaded with sugar. All right. And so it's amazing, like I said, when you realize that there is a concerted effort to make you dependent on this stuff, right? Because once you become dependent on sugar, right, that's where the real money is. Because sugar is literally the gateway drug to every single illness, from heart disease to eczema to polycystic ovarian cancer, prostate issues, cancer itself, high blood pressure, diabetes, you name it, even bad eyesight, macular degeneration, all of it is linked to sugar. Even the entire beauty industry that we know today, selling you creams and all these different things for anti-wrinkle, the best anti-wrinkle treatment you can give yourself is to cut out sugar.
So wait, Titus, that's crazy, because you just ran down a list of diseases related to sugar that most people didn't even know was tied to sugar. Yeah. And in case people miss this, what he was saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, If you would eliminate sugar, you could probably eliminate these diseases, eczema, all these. You could lower your heart rate, or you could lower your chances of heart disease, rather, diabetes, and all these other kinds of things. But because we're hooked on sugar, and a lot of us don't know it, we got to put this salad dressing on the salad because it tastes good. Well, why does it taste good? Because it has sugar in it. You got to drink this soft drink. Why do you have to drink it? It's not a soft drink, so it's a hard drink because it has sugar in it. And if we're absolutely honest, Titus, if we look at the alcohol industry and you look at especially brown liquor, black people, be careful. This is something I'm gonna drop in for you. Alcohol, brown liquor has more sugar in it than probably a whole box of cereal or boxes of cereal. There's so much sugar in brown. That's why we like it so much, or some of us like it so much, is because it has that sugar in it. Sugar it's addictive. And the industry knows that. All of these other industries know that, as Titus was saying. That's the reason why it's in so many products. That's why it's in. I can't actually, Titus, then I'm thinking about this. I can't think of one product that sugar is not in except water. Like I can't, and that's not a product. I just can't think of many products where sugar is not a main ingredient or a byproduct or some kind of ingredient amongst the list of a whole plethora of things.
When I work with people, Michael, one of the easiest things to do is to get them off medication. And how is it easy? First of all, you have to have an accountability level, but educate them. Or what
hold on a second, Titus, because I want just real quick, because I want you to stay right there. Now, what you're telling us is absolutely how we can, or partly anyway, and I want you to go into it, how we can get off this addiction to sugar. And now you're starting to talk about this through some of these methods you're doing. So go ahead and pick it up from there.
Yeah, so I change your relationship with food. I educate people about their food. And there's two questions to ask about your food. What is it doing for me? What is it doing to me? Okay. Understanding that food is fuel, right? So is this food providing me the fuel I need? What fuel is it providing? Do I need that? Right? And in the process of giving me this thing that I now say I need, right? What is it doing to me? And if you eat more things that are doing good things for you and nothing bad to you, that's where your magic is. And if 95, and the easiest way to do that, Michael, is that 95% of the things you eat should not come out of a box or a package, should be directly tied one step away from an animal, a fruit, or a vegetable.
Repeat that, please, Titus. Repeat that whole statement one more time, please.
If 95% of the things you eat come directly from an animal, a fruit, or a vegetable, you will be healthier than 95% of people. But
I didn't mean to cut you off. Repeat the part about the box and those kinds of things.
Yeah. And so that means that anything that is in a box and or a package does not qualify.
Thank you.
Okay? It doesn't qualify. I'm sorry. Pepperoni doesn't qualify. Ham doesn't qualify. Okay? All these things that have gone through human manipulation. And what is human manipulation? Anything that is going to extend the shelf life, alter the taste, or the visual of it. Anything that has
explain those, please.
Yeah, anything that has any compound or anything added to it. So take, for instance, I can go through an entire day I can sit here and name different combinations of meals, right? There are single ingredient meals, single ingredient. You know, and you mentioned before bread. That is one of the biggest addictions that people have. And I shared with you a post earlier this week. A lot of people don't even realize that. One slice of bread usually can have more than 1 teaspoon of sugar.
What about wheat bread?
Wheat bread is exactly the same. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I mentioned the last time I was on, I am actually running an experiment where I bought 4 loaves of bread from the grocery store, the beginning of December. One is the store-bought brand, and that's there. And the other 3 are, Martin's potato bread, which everyone loves, Sara Lee keto bread, and Wonder bread. The last 3, today, what's today's date? The 13th, 14th?
15th.
15th. The last 3 are still sitting in room temperature have not molded, smell, and look exactly the same.
Whoa. Are you
Whereas the
serious?
store bought one that only has 6 ingredients molded 4 days after I bought it. So now
Wow.
ask yourself this: what's in that bread that nature does not want to eat?
Mm.
And why am I eating it? And when I eat it, what is that going to do to me? Because our bodies are designed to break down, absorb things of nature: meat, fish, poultry, fruits, vegetables. Those things are natural, right? And if you leave a piece of meat, fish, or something out, guess what? Nature will eat it. Why won't nature eat that? And why am I eating it?
Speaking of that point right there, I saw this experiment, Titus. I know you saw this, where they had this guy. He had a cheeseburger he had bought from McDonald's. Do you remember this experiment? He had
I,
bought a
po-
cheese.
I posted it on my page. He bought the
I'll let you talk about
cheeseburger.
it. You go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, he bought the cheeseburger in '99, and it's got over 5 million views on my page right now. And he was actually looking at it. I believe it was last year or something. 25 years later, and it hasn't molded or anything.
So what does that do to our body? It never breaks down, right?
No, but you see, here's the thing, Michael. A lot of times, even when people are thinking, you know, well, I can just exercise it off. You can't exercise off those chemicals.
Mm.
You can't exercise the chemicals off, bro. And so when you're putting this stuff in your body all the time, and here's another thing, sadly, people think because I eat it and I don't die immediately or get sick immediately, that I'm fine. And I like to remind people of this: the heart attack that happened at 50 started at 20. Okay.
Oof.
The diabetes that occurs at 45 started at 30.
Mm.
The polycystic ovarian syndrome that happened, it started years prior. All these things, the human body is so resilient. Your body literally trying to save you every day. But after a while, you break that body down. And I'm sure you have noticed, just as I have, right? The amount of great young people that we have lost. And we seem to lose them between that age of 45 and 55.
Yeah.
Right. 45 and 55. And all of them are exhibit the signs, you know. But everybody thinks that, because I didn't die, I've been eating it for 30 years. Boom. You know.
Wow. That's crazy. I wanna jump back to that, but I wanna because I'm listening to you, man, and I hope people don't get overwhelmed. And we're doing this show because, and I think Titus, I was thinking about this the other day. I was saying, man, I should probably have you come on once a month just to do a health segment because it's much needed, right? For men and for women. This is for everyone. Because you're right. I'm watching friends of mine, man. I just was at a funeral yesterday. It was a heart attack. And I don't know that he knew, all of what was going on. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty positive that sugar was somehow related to all of that. And I just wonder, had he could he have been saved had he cut back on some different things? I don't know, maybe not. But for those who are living, we know for a fact that if we cut back now, we can certainly be better off. But I definitely want to have you on probably once a month just to have this, this health segment. But I want to walk through a couple of common names and not so common names of sugar that people should be aware of, especially as you're going to the supermarket and you're looking, you're purchasing things. As Titus said, you should be reading the labels. If it's in a box, you probably don't even want to eat it. If it's in a package, you probably want to think second, maybe a third time before you purchase it. But let me run down these real quick. Sugar, cane sugar, brown sugar. Titus, you jump in wherever you want. Raw sugar, turbinado sugar, evaporated cane juice, organic cane juice, beet sugar, uh, dextrose, fructose, galactose, glucose, lactose, maltose. How many times we've heard lactose? Sucrose, syrups and nectars, agave nectar. I know people who love agave, brown rice syrup, carob syrup, corn syrup,
That's all.
golden syrup.
There's
Huh?
over 56 different names. And every year, the sugar industry finds new ways to create that molecule. Okay.
Exactly.
They add it into everything. Sugar is subsidized. And I'm not a political person, right? But look at your politics. You have to realize that people have allowed this to happen. Corporations don't get to poison you without consent, because the same corporations that make the same Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and all
Yep.
these things for sale in the United States is are forbidden for using the same formula in Europe. If you go to Europe, the soda in Europe has a different sugar count. Okay? When you go many places in the world, even China, it has a different count.
Let's talk about that. Hold on one second. Say you going too fast for me, not everybody else, because I'm slow. I'm a slow learner. But we know this because we travel a little bit. You travel a lot abroad. I travel a little bit. You travel a lot abroad. For a second, we got to stop here, because why is it the rest of the world, their standards for not just healthcare, but food is completely, it's absolutely 100, it's 180 degrees difference. There, you can't, the stuff that, this is crazy to me. McDonald's is not the same in any other country. None of the food, it's all different. The sodas, the food, everything. I'm sure Taco Bell, I'm sure, some of these other ones, Wendy's, all of them are different.
All of them.
Just the food standards are different. Talk to us about that, Titus, because how is it that everyone else cares about what happens to their citizens in terms of food and consumption, except the United States? We're the leading nation in the world in terms of wealth and all the rest of this other kind of stuff, and we're probably the poorest in terms of health. That's right. Crazy. You change a W to an H, and it goes the whole other way. Talk about that for a minute.
Well, let me just make it very simple for you, okay? If you have a horrible diet and you don't eat properly, and you get to 50 years old and you require health care and all these different things in Germany, the German government is responsible for that. If you did it in Spain, the Spanish government is responsible for that. France, the French government is responsible for that. Russia, the Russian government is responsible for that. The United States is not responsible for your health. They don't have to pay for it.
Is that the reason they don't want to pay for it? I just thought about that. I'm just asking.
No, I can't say that. It's not the reason they don't want to pay for it, right? I can't. Those other reasons are much different, and that's a whole different conversation.
That's true.
But
could that be a reason? Because the healthcare would be. Imagine if the American government paid for healthcare, what would that look like, Titus?
Well, it's amazing how the very senators that tell you it's so hard to afford it, right? They have it.
They sure do.
Right?
For life.
And every 4 years, people go traipsing up there and voting for them to deny them the very rights that they get, even if they serve one term.
That's true. For the rest of their life.
Time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, very simple. They're not responsible for your health. They're not responsible for your health. Here's something to note. And people ask me this all the time. With all your knowledge that you have, with all the people who you've helped, reduce their dependency on pharmaceuticals, how come you don't work directly with people like the CDC and the American Diabetic Association, American Heart Association? You remember the big uproar beginning of this year, I believe, when RFK suggested that SNAP benefits could not be used to purchase soda?
Yes.
Right. And everybody went in an uproar. You shouldn't be able to tell people what to buy. First of all, if you're getting free stuff from the government, yes, they can dictate what you can use with the money you're getting for free. Secondly, do you know who went on Capitol Hill to lobby to allow sugary drinks to remain on SNAP? Mind you, $17 billion a year is used to buy sugary drinks on SNAP. Billion.
Hold on 1 second. The sugary drinks you're referring to, you don't have to say the name brands, but what are those sugary drinks? Sodas, Coke, Pepsi. Yeah, sodas. Okay. Do you know who went to lobby to allow it to remain? The American Heart Association. Whoa, what?
Yes. Don't
Not
take my
Coke,
word. Don't take my
not
word
Coke,
for it.
not Pepsi. The
American
American
Heart
Heart Association?
Association went there and lobbied and said, "Well, there's no real link that we have saying that that sodas and sugary drinks affect." Do you know that 67% of people who receive SNAP benefits also are on Medicaid and Medicare because a lot of them are overweight and have these other conditions?
I believe that.
The American Heart Association. But you see, that sounds crazy unless you know the history that the American Heart Association was established basically from a corrupt deal between them and Ansel Keys when Procter and Gamble gave them $1.7 million, I believe, in the 50s or 60s, to help them bribe the government to promote Crisco. So the American Heart Association was corrupt from the very beginning. And don't let me get into even the American Cancer Association, how they got started. So once
wait a minute.
again,
I definitely want you to get into that. Now, I mean, don't get deep into it, but there's also, because you talked about this earlier, and I pay attention to, since we've been in the Silver Fox Squad, and you are, again, our health guru, I pay attention to, I may not tell you all the time, but I pay attention to a lot of the stuff you talk about. Today, you said something that was key that most people don't realize, the link between sugar and cancer. And how, and I've seen this several times throughout, and I'll let you talk more about it, but how cancer basically loves sugar. It feeds on sugar. And if you could starve sugar, you could almost eliminate your chances of having cancer, or at least reduce the chances of having cancer. So I definitely want you to talk about that a little bit, and I want you to talk about that relationship because you brought it up. And I was going to bring it up anyway, but since you're there, come on, bro, let's get into it.
well, one thing about you have to understand propaganda, first of all, because this is all we're talking about. Propaganda is marketing, all right? And you have to ingrain these things in people. And so a lot of times when I talk about stuff like this, once again, it's going to fall on deaf ears, right? Because like I said in the very beginning, the truth will never set you free as long as you still believe in the lie. Okay? And then here's the other thing that happens to most people when they hear me say stuff like this. You know it's true, right? But then there's this thing in the back of your mind because you've been programmed, right? What do you say? Who would do that? No one would do that.
Mm.
But what you're actually saying, Michael, is I wouldn't do that. But when we actually step back, the proof is it's right there in plain sight. We know it's being done. We know about the Tuskegee experiment. We know about MK Ultra. We know about a lot of experiments, as a matter of fact, that were run on the American people, right, for profit and other things. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even know the significance of October 3rd, 1995. That was the day that President William Jefferson Clinton came on TV and basically was an apology to the American people for the decades-long practice of experimenting on the American people without their knowledge. He literally he apologized. You don't even know that happened. Do you know why you didn't know that happened?
Because wrapped up in something.
Because strategically, that was the day that they announced the OJ verdict. Okay? And guess what all the news stations did? They ran the story about OJ, who you don't care about. You don't know those people, and those people have no impact on your life, and hid the story where your president told you that your government had been poisoning you for years.
Wow. All right. Cancer, the link between cancer and sugar.
Right. So we've known this since the 30s. Henry Otto Warburg, it's called the Warburg effect. He discovered that basically sugar feeds cancer. Mm-hmm. If you deprive your body of sugar, right, cancer cannot survive because a healthy immune system eradicates cancer on a daily basis. We also talked about fasting, right?
Yes. Yep.
One of the main things about fasting is restricting fuel to malignant cells. Mm-hmm. And once you do that, your other cells, your white blood cells, will do what? They will increase, and guess what? They will go after those harmful cells. And so just by your fasting 40, 72 hours, you give your body a period of time where you're not feeding the sugar, well, not feeding the cancer and other diseases, right?
Yep.
And you give your body a chance to catch up with their cleaning. So it is almost near impossible to develop cancer in a body that is not being burdened by sugar all the time. Okay? And that's why a lot of people like to promote things like a carnivore diet, which I am not a fan of any extremes. Okay? I believe we can achieve a certain level of balance. I'm not saying that you should never eat a donut in your life again. But if you're currently overweight, currently have diabetes, currently have high blood pressure, and or any prevailing health issues, maybe we need to take the donuts and set it to the side. And even when we talked about that meal, your meal breakdown, right? Remember I said 95% of your meal. So you can have 5% variance, right?
Yep.
But 95%, if you were eating it that didn't come out of a box or package, right, you would do much better.
Yeah. Whole lot better. I mean, if nothing else, if you're on right now and you're suffering from any of these things you just talked about, Titus, if you're suffering with heart disease, with diabetes, or any of these other types of related diseases, sugar is a big part of the reason why you're suffering. If you keep having coffee with sugar, cream, and all this other kind of stuff every single day, if you're drinking sodas every day, and Titus, I know people who do this, they cannot go a day without drinking a Pepsi or a Coke. I mean, some of them like, I have to have at least 3 to 4 a day, or 5 or more sodas a day. You have to have a soda with every single meal. You got to have this sugary drink. You got to have a drink every day. You got to have some sort of sweets in your life. You're killing yourself. That's what we're talking about here on tonight. And what we want to do is to help you get healthy, to get off of this sugar, to recognize that sugar isn't everything. And while you might not be able to eliminate all sugar, which you need some sugar, that you need to cut back on a whole bunch of these habits that you have. Because what we're talking about, these are all habits.
So let me just stop you right there, Michael. You've said this a couple of times now, and I have to correct it.
Sure.
You need some sugar. That's not true.
You don't need any sugar. I've read a report today that said you still need some sugar, not a lot of sugar.
No.
Correct.
Once again, in order for the truth to set you free, you have to first figure out the lie that's holding you hostage.
I'm good with that. I'm just saying I read the report, so I'm glad you corrected me.
Your body does not require you to consume any form of dietary sugar in order to function optimally. Full stop.
I know it produces sugar on its own, or insulin on its own.
So if you, Michael, if I gave you a diet of fish, chicken, steak, broccoli, asparagus, greens,
avocado.
Yeah, okay, avocado. And that's all you ate, you'll be perfectly fine. You don't necessarily even have to eat a single fruit. Now, are fruits beneficial? Yes. Okay. And a lot of times, here's what people have to think, because you see, what our society does, it says things like that to program you. Well, you need to eat some sugar. And that's the door that opens, and some leads to a little bit more and a little bit more. You actually don't need to eat any. There is no recommended daily allowance of carbohydrates. Why? Because your body doesn't really need it.
And that's what we're talking about now. We just want to produce it. Okay. So the body produces, we know this, produces sugar on its own, insulin on its own.
Your body will produce its own glucose.
On glucose on its own, right? And
your liver will do that.
Right. The what will do that, you said?
Your liver.
Your liver will do that. But you have to, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to eat certain foods for it to be able to, no, you don't. It'll just automatically do it on its own. That's the reason why I'm asking these questions. I don't want to come, I'm not the
expert. I know that. And I kept hearing you, I know that. And I kept hearing you. Yeah, I kept hearing you say it. And that's why I have to clear that up. Because I'll be honest. Listen, Michael, even the whole, you got to eat your fiber, right? That's made up. That's made up. Yeah. What you
Okay.
have to do is you have to allow your body enough time to digest this food. And so let's
Thank you, man.
assume I came and I said, okay, yeah, Michael, check this out. You're going to eat this 24-ounce steak, right? And that's it. You will eat that steak. Your body will break it down. 9 to 12 hours later, you'll pass it out.
Mm.
Yeah. Now, why did they say you should get your fiber? Because generally, fibrous foods also are packed with nutrients. And so it's another way to get you to eat nutrients. But do you actually need to eat it? No. And let me put this in your mind.
Sure.
Think about the different tribes of people all over the world, whether it be Antarctica, whether it be the deserts, the savannas, where they live in arid places where there's no vegetation. They ate antelope, they ate seal, salmon. What are you growing in Antarctica or certain parts of Alaska 200 years ago when they did not have industrial farming? What are you growing? You ate fish.
Wow. Great. That's great. That's great. That's
As
great.
a matter of fact, a lot of the industrial farming we see today basically only happened over the last 150 years.
This is why I love conversating with you and bringing on these different guests, because I don't want to put something on there that's not correct, and you just correct me. So I'm happy to know that that's not the case, but I'm also I feel better because I just learned something, that knowing that the body is going to produce this glucose all on its own. You don't necessarily need to put sugar in your body. You need to eat certain foods because it'll help create that in your body to create that glucose. So listen, wherever you see it, please correct it.
You
Please.
eat
That's why we
you
have you
need
on.
you need to eat nutrient dense foods, and there is no food that is more nutrient dense than animal flesh.
And we got to
When
talk about that sometime too, because
when
people
when
just
they
think.
start when they started giving people grain, right? That was to feed to peasants. Peasants ate barley. Peasants ate. They used to call it gruel. You know what gruel is?
No, I have no idea. Mm-mm.
That's what oatmeal was. That's what oatmeal is. They used to
So
give
oatmeal is
gruel
a
to the
peasant food?
yes.
Okay.
Oatmeal and breads are peasant foods.
Wow.
So let's go all the way back to the Roman Empire, right? When the locals were restless, what did Caesar say? If you can give somebody cheap food and entertainment, you can keep them occupied and keep them out of the government's business. What do we see today? An endless loop of cheap food and entertainment. And back then he says, give them bread and circus. What was the original circus? The gladiator games.
Yep.
And then they get so wrapped up in that. What is today's gladiator games? Football, basketball, hockey, baseball. Look at the schedule. It's never ending.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's your circus. The circus goes 365. All right? And that's why our government subsidizes McDonald's. They subsidize fast food. They don't subsidize healthy food, because a nation of healthy, strong people have a healthy, strong mind.
Mm-hmm.
Your government's not going to invest in that. And until people can grasp that, right, that's the only way they will release the lie that your government's actually trying to help save you. And once you realize that they're not trying to help save you, as a matter of fact, there are so many industries, trillions of dollars that are dependent on your being uninformed and unhealthy, right? Once you realize that, then you start to see the rest of the picture. But until you realize that, all this is just going to sound like babble.
This is sometimes, Titus, I look at things and read them, and thank you again for the correction. And I wonder, how we got into the mindset that we got into, but I understand it's been ingrained, right? You've been taught this over a number of years. And so it's difficult sometimes to put the toothpaste back into the tube, because you just think it's right, because you've done it for so long, because you've read it for so long, because you've heard it, the propaganda, you've heard it for so long, that it's automatically true. And this is what's crazy to me. I don't want to get off into this, but when you start to look at AI and you start to look at what's being put in the textbooks and so forth, lies are being perpetuated, right? So sometimes it's hard to be able to see the truth from a lie because of all the different things. And again, that's why we brought you on here tonight, was to help us delineate between the two. Because think about it, I did not know that oatmeal had a ton of sugar in it. Me personally, I don't really eat oatmeal like that. I used to when I was a kid, but it had so much sugar in the oatmeal that I was getting. It was loaded with sugar, and I loved it because I would always get. In fact, for those who used to watch Tom and Jerry, the after school, all that kind of stuff, peanut butter and jelly. But I used to eat oatmeal, and I would always eat the oatmeal with brown sugar. I couldn't eat the regular oatmeal like with nothing else. Like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Kool-Aid. I had to have Kool-Aid. I had to drink sodas, all this other kind of stuff. Just saying it to say, man, that stuff was bad for us, and it's caught up to us now in our 40s and 50s. And you got to figure at 40s and 50s, you've done all these things. This is habit forming. It's hard to break. I talk to people every day who like, man, you know what? I'm too old. And I'm like, you're not too old.
That's
You
not
just
true.
got to, I agree.
That's not true.
I tell them you're not too old. You just have to develop the will for it. I'm like, would you rather keep consuming these things and your body react the way it does? Gout. Like, people don't realize gout is inflammation, arthritis, inflammation.
You don't get
inflammation.
you don't get gout because of eating meat. You get gout when your insulin levels are high. Your body naturally recycles and rids itself of uric acid. But when your insulin levels go up, your body cannot flush uric acid. And then the uric acid forms in your joints. And now you have a gout flare up.
Exactly. So it's all of these things, Titus, that we aren't aware of. And again, as I've started doing more research about this, and especially, this is where I started. I started looking at inflammation, right? And I was like, okay, why is my body inflamed? So if you start just looking at inflammation, then you go backwards and you see the number one culprit for the most part is sugar. You're like, well, wait a minute. Okay, if I cut this out, and then you start saying, well, it's not just this, but it's all these other things. It's just crazy. And what I'm saying is to say, a lot of us, man, we got to pay attention to what we're eating, especially if you're in your 40s and your 50s, because these problems aren't going to they aren't going to get less. They're going to become more. And, you're going to get to the point where you could wind up dying from these things. And your quality of life will decrease as time goes on because you decided or made a decision to not do something. I don't want to say it's simple, Titus, because it's not always simple for everybody. It might be for me and you, but not for everyone. I understand this. But you made a decision not to cut something back or cut something off that could potentially save your life, prolong your life, or give you a better quality of life. With that, I want you. Oh, go ahead. One more thing. One more thing real quick, and I want you to go into it because our time is winding down. I want you, after you make this statement, to get into walking us through how to kick this sugar dependence, what it looks like. And then one of the things I'm going to talk about, and I want your opinion, and I want your help with this as well. I want us to do a 5-day no sugar fast. And I want you to help us kind of put some things in place to help us do that. So with all that, go ahead.
So when I wanted to address when somebody, I'm too old, I've been doing this for so long and all this thing like that. One of the things I've unfortunately had to deal with when I've been doing this now for over 20 some years is deal with people's reservations, and all those things are excuses. Okay. There's simple excuses. Here's one thing that you and I can both agree on. I think we all have known somebody who has been diagnosed with cancer,
yes.
Stage 2, stage 3 cancer, right? I don't have the time. It's too hard. Have you ever heard anyone who is diagnosed with stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 cancer say, I don't have the time for chemo, and whatever they tell me to do is too hard?
Never.
You know why? Because there they know the alternative is death. When people make statements like that to you, most of the time they think they'll be okay because they haven't died yet, right? Most people think that they're going to lead this unhealthy lifestyle. And, one day they're just going to wake up, or one day they're just not going to wake up. But the truth of the matter is, Michael, is that most people who are unhealthy will spend their last 10, 20 years of their life in and out of doctor's office, limited mobility, all because they could not discipline themselves literally for 60 days. When we were on the cruise, Michael, one of my best clients, is an older lady, let's say a young lady, she's 68.
I think we all met her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Patricia started with me in the beginning of June of last year. 215 pounds, had never been under 200 pounds in decades. 68. As of this Monday, Patricia's 160 pounds. In 7 months, she's down 55 pounds. So I want to hear about you being too old.
Question for you, real quick, Tyson. She's down 50 pounds. How much of that,
55.
55 pounds, how much of that was related to her eliminating sugar, knocking down that 55 pounds?
A lot of it. When I work with people, Michael, I work from two angles. Number one, I change your relationship with food, but I help you build a sustainable lifestyle and diet to go forward. I don't do crash diets. I don't do fads. We're going to do this for 1 week. No. What I do is I educate people on how to totally change the trajectory of their health by changing their habits, but first changing their perspective on their food, changing their relationship, how they view their food, how they select their food, how they start to regard their food. And once that happens, the changes and the progress, it just accelerates. I posted a young lady last Tuesday. She started off 186 pounds, high blood pressure, on medication, everything like that. 1 year later, 139, no meds. And she's in her 50s.
Wow. How many of us can say that we're in our 50s on no meds or want to be on no meds? I mean, this is what it boils down to. And guess what, Titus, to that point, medication is expensive, man. I don't know how people listen. Got family members,
it's
man.
not only expensive for the medication, it's expensive for what it costs you, what it does to your body.
I was going to say that next. But and look, on top of what it costs your body, I'm thinking about missed opportunities. Because when you're sick, you can't do a lot of stuff. You talked about mobility. And that's the thing that sugar, people don't realize, it kills your mobility. After a certain amount, after a certain period of time, you get these different diseases. We talked about gout. I know people who have gout, Titus. And for those who don't know, again, that's chronic inflammation in your joints. When you cannot move, when that gout kicks in, it shuts your body down. You're not going anywhere, probably for days. Yeah. What does that mean? Like, you can't, if you have gout or catch a thing of gout and you're planning to go on a trip and you have gout, you're not getting on a plane. You're not getting in the car. You're not doing anything where you can't move like that, or you're cramped up for hours at a time, or a 2-hour flight, a 3-hour flight, a 2-hour drive. You're not doing that stuff.
You know, one of the saddest things to see, Michael?
What's that?
Is somebody who has done well financially.
Wow, I knew he was going to
amass a whole bunch of money, and they get to their mid-50s or 60s. If you're a guy, you're overweight, you got knee problems, you can barely walk around, hip problems, need hip replacements, heart issues, breathing issues, erectile dysfunction, all these different things. And believe it or not, all of those things I named are directly related to sugar. Because what is sugar? Sugar breaks down your ligaments. Okay. Sugar will cause erectile dysfunction.
Hold on, stop. Stop, Titus. Stop right there. This podcast is dedicated to men. Listen, the one thing that will kill your spirit as a man.
Yes.
ED. That, I don't care what kind of man, I don't care how strong you are, powerful you are. If you suffer from ED, it's going to kill you.
You know one of the telltale signs of a guy who probably has ED problems?
No, hold on, Titus. I want you to get into that, but I want you to talk about the relationship with this sugar and ED. Now go. Say what you're going to say. Keep going.
So in your penis has a lot of small blood vessels, right? And capillaries that conduct blood to make it erect. Well, if you continue eating sugar, those blood vessels constrict. And then over time, just like how people lose a toe, right? The reason why they lose that toe is because blood is not getting there anymore.
Yep.
Okay. Well, it happens to that as well. Okay. So let me tell you one of the things you can watch out for. If you see a lot of these guys who are our age, who just love being out drinking, right? What they're doing is they're medicating for what they can't do anymore.
Ooh, you messing with people now, Titus.
Okay. You go to the bathroom with them, right? And you stand in the stall. I'm a very observant person, right? You go in the bathroom and you stand in the stall, right? You stand in the stall, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. If your urine isn't already coming out, that's a prostate issue.
Yes, sir.
And or you might have some other issues going on.
Yeah.
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 It should not take more than 3 seconds for your urine to come out. Another thing that I can tell is the force by which your urine comes out.
If it's weak, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You go
Yeah,
ahead.
if it's a trickle,
Yeah.
right? Prostate.
We're gonna cut Titus. I tell you what, next month we're gonna come back and talk about prostrate. That we teeing it up right now. We talking about prostrate, but we're gonna talk about, for the most part, we're gonna talk about ED, because I know people won't come on if you talk about prostrate. We're gonna talk about ED, but prostrate is really gonna be the impetus behind this, because a lot of men suffer with ED and they're too embarrassed to go get help, which is crazy, because now the technology that's out here, even if you struggle with some things in the past, the technologies that are out here now is just crazy. This just in general across the board, some more medical technology. And then the fact that you could just eat better, just change your eating.
Well, the technology that people are relying on is a pill. Whereas if you, like I said, if you change your diet, right, stop eating some things and ate a few other things and take 1 or 2 supplements that help to produce better testosterone, better blood flow, there you go. But one of the things that you talked about earlier, Mike, is how do we kick this sugar thing?
Yes.
Right? Number one, we talked about fasting before, not eating before 12.
Yep.
But there are things and tools you can use. So you guys has always seen me doing my tea and stuff. I show you guys the hibiscus tea, right?
Love it. I do it now.
So now a lot of people used to ask me about what do I mix? What do I mix? I solved the problem, Michael. I produced a hibiscus bliss tea. Hibiscus, dandelion, clove, ginger, licorice, but one last ingredient I added to this, yerba mate.
Now talk about the yerba mate. I don't think I've heard of this one. What is that?
Yerba mate is a.
Oh, we talked about it last week. You talked about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yerba mate is a tea from South America, right? That aids your body in lowering your blood sugar, but it has a natural GLP-1 stimulator. So what it does, what a lot of people don't realize, GLP-1, everything you're hearing with Ozempic, your body actually produces that hormone, right? But what happens is your body produces that hormone and is usually found in stuff when you eat things like meat. However, yerba mate also helps your body produce it. So now let's say in the morning you wake up in the morning and you're trying to stave off the hunger. You have a cup of this, right? It'll extend your body's feeling of satiety, right? So you won't even get hungry. While the hibiscus lowers your blood pressure, the cinnamon regulates your blood sugar.
Yep.
The dandelion, the clove flush your liver. Remember you talked about your liver earlier,
yes,
right?
Sir.
And then the ginger and all those other things soothe your gut and help you with good gut microbiome, preparing you for your meal at 12. So you can find that on my website, TitusUnlimited.com, under tea, hibiscus bliss tea.
Don't forget to send me mine.
Yes.
I need that. One of the things I'm also going to do too, man, because we're on here, I want you to promote your stuff as well. So I want you to become, one of my advertisers on here with me, because it's necessary, man. Like this information you're giving is good, but if you don't have the products behind it, you don't know how to get started. Like this, what good is it? And this is a great start for people to do. And we talked about this last week. I told you, I listen to, I might not tell you I'm listening to all the stuff, but just know I am. I've been on teas for about almost a year now. I drink all green teas, black teas, hibiscus teas, matcha. I drink all this stuff, and I have all these different, herbs at my house that I'll experiment and play with, in terms of adding to the teas. This information, man, this tea stuff, Titus, is absolutely fantastic. I'm glad you came up with it, because I think we talked about this a little bit. I normally would have to, I make a tea just like you just talked about, but I have to have all the ingredients myself, which is, It's super expensive, but it's worth every bit of it, right? So, but anyway, the tea is a good start. Keep on going with what we can do to get off of sugar or reduce our sugar dependence or dependency.
So that fasting or the intermittent fasting, right,
Yep.
helps your body first learn how to burn energy more efficiently. So what does your body do? Your body will switch to burning body fat. Okay. And then when you do eat, prioritize protein. Okay. Because you don't have sugar cravings. One of the quickest ways to kick a sugar craving is to eat high levels of protein. Because once you eat high levels of protein, protein has a lot of nutrients in it. And when you have a lot of nutrients in your body's not triggered for cravings. Why do people get cravings late night? Because they don't eat properly. If you eat properly, you stop the cravings. There's also supplements, like one of my supplements, I carry the complete minerals. Why is the complete minerals very effective? Because it gives your body all 102 minerals your body requires. So
Which one?
that
Hold
is
on, sorry, Tony, say that one more time. Which one is it again?
complete minerals.
Complete minerals. Got you.
Yeah, it's one of my best-selling products. I've had it now for years. It's sea moss, bladderwrack, burdock root, and moringa. You add it to a smoothie or something like that, boom. It stays off hunger for hours. All right. And then make a conscious effort when you look at your food. What is it doing for me? What is it doing to me? Dial back on all the carbs. Okay. Eat more protein and then look at your avocados and your other vegetables. Right. And then on occasion, once again, we got to remember cake is not supposed to be consumed daily. Cake is a celebratory thing. So if it's not your birthday, right, why are we eating cake? And then when you think about the things you drink, would you pour it on a plant? Would you pour it on a plant? Because if you wouldn't pour it on a plant, maybe you shouldn't pour it down your mouth. Okay? Because every time you do that, you're putting something now foreign in your body that your body now has to process. Okay? So even when it comes to alcohol, right? I'm not disingenuous to say don't have a drink, but how often do we need to be drinking?
Right. We're saying don't consume it daily.
No, well, don't even consume it weekly. Why are you drinking every week?
Okay.
You know, I remember when I first made the turn years back, Mike, I said I went from, drinking whenever I felt like it, because, I was a broker, so I'm out there, I have to do sales meetings and stuff like that. I went to drinking only on Friday, I would start drinking after 5 p.m. on Friday. I had a 2-drink maximum for a day, and my drinking would cut off by 7 o'clock on Sunday. But when I did that for a while, then I said, you know what? Why don't I go this weekend, skip this weekend? So now we'll go, 1 week, 14 days off, 1 week. And then one day I said, you know what? I'm just going to leave it alone. And guess what? I didn't drink for 2.5 years. So we all have the capacity. Every year I take at least 30 plus days off alcohol. And there have been some years where I just didn't drink at all.
Yeah. It's not as difficult as we put in our minds.
It's not difficult at all.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is learn how to not drink. I can go out with you, right? And I will tell the bartender, hey, do me a favor. Can I ask them, do you have mint and lime? Sure. Yes. Muddle me some mint and lime, right? And then give me a tonic water with it. Or give me some lemonade with it. Right?
Great suggestion.
Or an Arnold Palmer. So now when it comes out, if you're worried about the social aspect, right, it looks like a drink like everybody else. You don't have to deal with people asking you 100 million questions about why you're not drinking. But if you can also be like me and be like, I'm just not drinking.
Yeah. Agree. Listen, man, we at the hour 4 mark, and it's been a great conversation. Again, man, we gotta continue doing these kinds of talks because we want to see men and women healthy, and our children for that matter as well. And we got to do it. We owe it to each other to do that. You owe it to yourself to live a better life, a more healthier life, to give yourself, especially in your 40s and 50s. And I keep saying this because I'm in my 50s. We're deep in our 50s now. And we want to have a quality of life like we did when in our 30s and when in our 20s. You can't do that if you're unhealthy. So you've got to figure out and make a decision that I'm going to be healthy. And I'm going to do every single thing I can to become healthy. starting with how I think and how I speak. Because Titus, I realize if you say I can't do something, no, you're not. Henry Ford once said, whatever you believe is true.
The
Whatever
man
you
who
believe is true.
the man who believes he can and the man who believes he can't are both 100% right.
100% correct.
Yes.
And so you got to be careful about how you speak. The Bible even speaks to this about what you speak out of your mouth. You have to be careful because you're giving it life or creating death. So be careful about what you speak. Last thing I want to do, Titus, and I know you don't typically do this, but I want to challenge people, man, to join me in a 5-day fast. This really isn't for me, but it's mainly for other folks. But I want to do it. I want to kick this off. We're going to do a 5-day no sugar fast, where you're going to begin to go through your cupboards, go through your pantries, look at the labels of different things, these packages that you have. If it has sugar in it, I want you to either one or two, I know everybody can't do this, either one, discard it altogether, or two, pull it out so you cannot get to it. That's the first thing I want you to do. If you're going to the grocery stores, pay attention to the labels. Look for all those things that have anything that contains sugar and try to avoid doing
Let me
it.
pause you right there.
Sure, please.
When you go to the grocery store, don't buy anything that's in a box or package.
That's what I was saying. Thank you. Yes, thank you for clarifying.
So if it got a label, then don't even look at it. If anything in the box or package, so go straight to the produce section, go to the meat or fish section, and get out.
Thank you. That's where I was going with that. Third thing is, listen, if you're celebrating a birthday or whatever the case is, you don't necessarily have to have cake. You can have an alternative. Titus talked about this beautiful array of fruits and some other things. You could do that. Look for healthier options is what I'm saying to you.
Edible arrangements.
Thank you. Edible arrangements. I didn't want to say that because they ain't paying us, but I got it. So I'm making sure I'm being Titus. As I'm getting to this space, I'm understanding if they ain't paying you, don't mention their name. So I'm trying to avoid names, but I got you.
There you go.
We want to look for these different options, man. You don't always have to have a slice of cake. You don't always have to have pie. You don't always have to have cookies. You don't have to have candy. You don't have to have a soda. I want you to pay attention to all of these artificial things that you're putting in your body. And for 5 days, we're going to say we're not doing it. No sugars at all. We're eliminating as much sugar as possible out of our diet. We're going to start tonight. And I'm going to say 7 days because I want to come back next Thursday and do a post-op and figure out where we are. So I want to figure out how you did. If you will join me, I want you to drop in the comments, I'm in. Just type I'm in if you will join me. And I hope that you will consider doing this because we want you to have a healthier life. We want your quality of life to be better. Again, as your 40s and your 50s, man, you should be if you're in your 40s and your 50s and you're struggling with all these things, that's a damn shame. Titus, you said this. We work so hard to make all this money, to have a great retirement. Your retirement is spent in a goddamn nursing home. You're spent in a hospital. You're on all these medications. You can't enjoy or do anything because you're on all this medication and your body is just abandoning you because you've abandoned your body. So we want to begin to live a much better, healthier lifestyle so we can enjoy this money, man, that we made, enjoy life as it's supposed to be enjoyed. So if you're with me, just type in the comments, I'm in. And we look forward to hearing from you next Thursday. And we're going to do just a daily check-in. If you're struggling, some things you could do to get past that, man. For me, one of the things I know when I'm fasting and I'm struggling, I'll begin to pray and ask for help through that way. You know, to read your Bible or Quran or whatever it is you believe in. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. Another thing you can do, man, is to just get up and take a walk. I know for me, sometimes to just get my mind off of certain things, I'll just get up and take a walk. There's so many other aids, Titus, I don't know if you want to throw in some, but other aids to help you in your fasting so that you aren't focused on that sugar all day long, that you have to have this. One other thing I'm going to say that I want you to get in the practice of, stop saying I can't. Start saying I can, I will. Because if you say I can't, of course you won't be able to do it. But if you begin to say I can, watch how your life turns around. Watch how when you say I will, watch how the different opportunities you didn't think you'd run into or come across or be invited to, watch how many more engagement you have or how many more engagements you have. I'm saying all to say because, again, we want to see you live better. Titus, wait, I'm gonna let you close it out right here. So I'm just saying all that. I said all of what I'm going to say. I'm going to let our guest close us out.
Yeah, something that'll also help you out. Drink a glass of warm water with lemon and a pinch of salt.
Thank you.
Okay. But when I say drink it, sip it. Sip it and think about something meaningful. All right. That'll also curb sugar cravings. A lot of times when people think that they're craving sugar, you're just thirsty. Drink some
Mm,
water. Right.
mm.
A lot of times when you're hungry, you're not really hungry, you're just thirsty. Make an eating schedule, eat when it's time to eat, and eat what you planned on eating. Make an eating schedule, eat when it's time to eat, and eat what you planned on eating. Plan your meals. The same way if I ask you, Michael, what you doing tomorrow at 12? You know. You know what you're doing tomorrow at 12. You know where you need to be at 6. You know where you need to be at 8 in the morning. How come you don't know what you're going to put in your body, which dictates all of that? Plan those things. Yeah. All right.
All right, brother, give us the final word. Give us the final word. Give us
Yeah.
something to encourage it. Give us an encouraging word as we get up out of here, man.
It's never too late to get healthy. And once again, once you have the main thing you have to do is change your relationship with food, right? And a lot of times that goes back to the very first thing I said. Before the truth can set you free, you have to first figure out the lie that's holding you hostage. What lies have you told yourself or have you been told about your food, about your health, about your body? Figure out those lies, relinquish those lies, and then you can focus in on the truths that will help you move in the right direction. So,
All right, listen, man, we
all
out of
right,
here.
Ben.
This is Mike Johnson. That's Titus Unlimited. Titus, real quick, give your the tea. Talk
Yeah.
about real quick the tea. Tell us where we can find it and the other supplements as well.
Yeah, so the hibiscus bliss tea is on my website, same place with the supplements, titusunlimited.com. Very easy to find. I have other great supplements like the complete minerals we talk about, the detox stack. And if you also want to book a consultation with me, same place, titusunlimited.com. It's a pleasure, guys. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait for the next round.
Absolutely. Titus, I need my tea. All
Yes,
right,
sir.
listen, guys, we up out of here. Thank you so much. Tune in next week. We're going to have a great show for you. Got a couple of things on Monday. I'll be with Anika J. Owens for our relationship series. And, man, we're going to be talking about, Titus, I don't know if you want to chime in a little bit later after the show, but we're going to be talking about people or married couples who sleep in 2 different bedrooms. Man, what's going on with that? Is that toxic or is that good? Does that work? What's the deal with that? Don't say that, Titus, right here. Don't say that right here.
That's actually traditional.
He said that's a traditional. Is it traditional? We're gonna want to hear from you, but that's what we're gonna be talking about on Monday. It's gonna be an incredible show. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say. Again, this is Mike Johnson. I'm your host of Mandatory Conversations Podcast with Mike Johnson. I appreciate you so much. Do me a favor if you have not already, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps the channel. We need you. Thank you so much. See you next week. Peace.
Later.